Hi everybody, Luke Filmboss here, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the 2021 movies that I have seen that have been either theatrically released or a streaming exclusive. For example, Zack Snyder's Justice League or Vevo from Netflix. So I'm just gonna hop right into this. I've got quite a few movies on the list, and we're gonna rank them from worst to best. Let's go. In 22nd place with a 40% overall score is Mortal Kombat. This is a movie that was made pretty much just for the fans of the video game. Obviously, the movie's got to be made for its fan base, but it doesn't really have much crossover appeal to general audiences like myself, who has never actually played the Mortal Kombat video game. I've watched other friends play it, but personally myself have never played it. So this movie didn't have any nostalgic connection for me. And it's really not a good film in general. It plays strongest when it's like basing itself off of the video game source materials, but that's pretty much all just action scenes. And there was some cool action in here. Special effects are pretty cool, but there's not enough because they try to put in a little bit of dialogue and dumb, pointless plot to try to make it seem like it's a real movie, even though it's literally just a whole bunch of fight scenes shoved back to back to back. But then they throw in the boring dialogue, and the plot and the story is just so generic, simple, and so unnecessary because what they do with the characters is pretty much nothing. The main character is the most boring, basic, uninteresting character in the whole movie. And if anybody knows anything about filmmaking, never do that to your main character. Especially since the final showdown, our main character really plays no part. We just see Scorpion get resurrected and take down Sub-Zero. And our main character has nothing to do with it, pretty much. He does something, and I forget. This movie's also kind of forgettable, to be honest. It's just not that good. And in 21st place, with a 43%, is Chaos Walking. And I kind of forgot about this one. I kind of just watched it this year with some family, and then kind of forgot about it because this movie is kind of boring. It has some interesting ideas. The acting is okay, and there's not much else that this movie has to offer. I don't remember any action sequences. Most of the dialogue just became a blur. I got the concept down. The concept was good. The actors are all very talented, and there was a few key scenes that do kind of get lodged in my brain anyway. But the movie as a whole was just so poorly written and uninteresting that you don't really care about the characters to any reasonable degree that it's going to make an impact on you later down the road, being like, oh, I really like that movie. That movie really meant something to me. I felt something. This movie just doesn't have that. It's a good way to pass maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time, but after that, you're really not even going to think about this movie. And in 20th place is Black Widow, which is a really poorly written movie. This is one of the few movies this year that I actually did a review on, and it's just not good. It takes the character of Black Widow and completely, not completely, but for the most part, retcons everything that made her what she is. Her intelligence, her fighting ability, it's all just like dumbed down to this stupid, very cartoonish level of just incompetence. And with all the rest of the characters, the new characters that it introduces, the villains, the heroes, they're all really poorly written to the point where it really seems like a kid wrote the script for this movie, and then he got some adults to help him with the special effects. But there's like nothing grounded in reality. The action, the logic behind the secret agents and everything, none of the spy work or anything makes any actual sense in terms of how a spy organization would work, it's just not a good movie. And it plays it off as so silly and dumb when this movie should have been actually serious and like trying to tackle some deep meanings and purposes beyond just the typical Marvel summer have fun blockbuster. It had some deep issues that it just never touches on. It kind of glosses over and just goes for the stupid, campy things that we're expecting from Marvel, only it does it to a terribly large degree that completely even ruins the seriousness of the Black Widow character that we've known so far. Just narrowly edging out Black Widow's 45% with a 46% is Old in 19th place. This movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, who is one of my favorite movie directors of all time, but he doesn't always quite hit the mark, and this is a very good case of that. Once again, like with Chaos Walking, this is a very interesting concept, but the execution wasn't quite done right. It was done better. This is definitely a very memorable movie as opposed to Chaos Walking, but this is one of those movies that the script needed a little bit more tweaking because some of the writing and just like the ways that the characters react to situations is just really stupid. And in the end, it has somewhat of a payoff, but when you like really think about the logic behind how everybody in this movie thinks, it gets a little shaky, but it's kind of a fun movie still, but it's just not a good movie. In 18th place with a 50% is the Tom and Jerry movie that came out. And when I first reviewed this, I think I gave it like a 69%. I enjoyed it. But looking back on it, I think I was being a little bit too easy on the film because I have a lot of nostalgia for Tom and Jerry. That's something I grew up on. So yes, I did have some attachment to this property based on that. But I was also kind of looking at it through more of a child's eyes, saying like, this is a good movie for its target audience, which would be kids. But overall, a movie should be able to pander to all audiences. As you'll see later on this list, there's some movies like Raya and the Last Dragon that I went pretty hard on, even though it's a pretty good movie, because it just didn't quite reach up to the standard of like a full-fledged cinema piece to be like on the level of, say, Moana or Frozen. And I have to use those same standards even on a stupid, dumb, fun movie like Tom and Jerry. And so that's why I've moved the score down to a 50% because it's really not that great of a movie. It's fun. It's got a little bit of charm to it and an entertainment value, but it's just not very well made. It has a lot of problems, and it's just not good enough to be considered a good movie. In 17th place is Space Jam: A New Legacy, which I actually still enjoyed this film very much, even though, like Tom and Jerry, it wasn't made very well. Although, I will say the special effects are really good, I thought, and opposed to Tom and Jerry, I actually thought there were some really good character moments in this film. Yes, outside of LeBron James' relationship with his son, really none of the characters are interesting. The Looney Tunes are the Looney Tunes, so they're fun, but even with Bugs Bunny, I thought they were going to start like developing a character arc with him from when we first meet him to the end of the movie. And they try to give us a little bit in there, but really they don't do much with Bugs Bunny either. But there is enough good, like, heart in this movie to give it a few points in my book, but it's still not very well made. It's very much just a very long commercial with a story of a father and son conflict in there somewhere. But it's still just entertaining. It's a party movie. It's not exactly a piece of cinema, but it's still entertaining. So I give it a 55%. Not good, but I still really liked it. In 16th place with a 68%, finally we have hit movies that are considered to be good, even if they're not great. We have Godzilla vs. Kong, and this is just a dumb, fun movie. It had a straightforward plot, monsters fighting for dominance. It was kind of fun. And then you have the evil scientists making Mecha Godzilla, and they fight in the end. It was your standard Kaiju battle movie. Wasn't anything near what I was hoping for, especially after Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I think is a great movie. It didn't live up to the standard of Kong Skull Island, which was a very good, like, monster movie drama. But it did, in my book, top the original Godzilla, which was just kind of boring. This movie is not boring. It's very visually very beautiful, actually. Like, when they go to, I guess, the center of the earth or wherever Kong's family was from. That stuff's some really, really dazzling spectacle. So there's enough in this movie to make it enjoyable. In 15th place, with an overall score of 69%, is F9, which is the 10th movie in the Fast and Furious saga. And I have to say, it's been like a decade since the Fast and Furious movies have been this bad. I overall thought it was a good movie, but it's the worst film since, like, Fast and Furious, which was 2009. But there was actually some good stuff in here. This movie definitely has, like, such a little brain when it comes to, like, the physics and stuff. And all these movies have had, like, really dumb, like, unrealistic physics. But this movie goes over the top, but it can still be fun at times. Just, for the most part, the story and the plot just didn't quite reach the level of, like, films in recent years. It was pretty much straightforward, but I did like some of the backstory stuff, and John Cena and Vin Diesel pulled off the whole brother conflict dynamic. John Cena didn't do a great job of acting, and I thought he was going to be really bad, but he did pull it off, so I was actually surprised. But yeah, I don't think he's meant to be an actor to this level. He just can't pull off the seriousness. He's, like, way too, like, or whatever he does with his face, like, yeah. But overall, I enjoyed this film. Some good stuff, some stupid stuff, some bad, I would say. But overall, it's not a terrible movie. I had fun with it. In 14th place, with a 70%, is A Quiet Place 2, which, the first Quiet Place film is one of my favorite movies of all time. I was really looking forward to this film. And it didn't live up to any expectations. It was an entertaining film, but it's just like treading the same ground as the first film with, like, a few different locations. Some of the stuff was, like, new and creative, but it's like stuff that I was, like, expecting and I wanted them to go deeper with, and they didn't. And in the end, nothing really climactic happens. It's anticlimactic. The way they end the movie is pretty much the same way that they ended the first. The only difference is you have the family separated in, like, two different locations. That's literally, like, the only difference. Like, the movie started out pretty good with, like, some backstory. Like, yes, I wanted to know about how this whole thing got started, but I also wanted some more answers as to how they're gonna, like, finish it. Like, give me that third film. I want that third film, but please do something, like, better with it. Do something like they did with Aliens, like a nest or a queen or something. Like, expand. Don't just give us the same monsters and the same concept, the same method of beating them, because nothing new happened. But what saved this movie for me is, in that third act, while it was pretty basic and generic, I did get some really good emotional satisfaction in a few key scenes. So, it's a good movie, but it gets a 70% from me, because it was not that good. In 13th place, with a 73%, is Judah and the Black Messiah, which is a movie that I really wasn't going to watch, but it was free on HBO Max, So I just decided to check it out, and I liked it. It was a pretty good film. It didn't like lean way too much into like propaganda and like trying to shove the message of racism on you. It was just a story about how black people dealt with racism issues and how there was this black man who was a spy for like this organization or whatever, and that he actually betrayed his own race. And yes, he felt guilty about it, but it's just an interesting story. It was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it, but I'm not quite sure that it's like award worthy. Maybe some of the cinematography, the script, I guess, but it wasn't like over the top, like best picture good, but it was still pretty good. So, yeah. And in 12th place, with also a 73%, is Disney's Jungle Cruise, which is a movie that I liked and had fun with. I would watch it again, but it's not like anything special, like in terms of action, plot, characters. It's just your typical fun uh, popcorn blockbuster film. It was fun, not much to say about it. Funny jokes, good acting, good action, some twists and like surprises in there. But overall, it's not like a Pirates of the Caribbean level like adaptation. In 11th place with a 77.5% is The Mitchells versus the Machines, which was originally going to be a theatrically released film from Sony, but then they sold it to Netflix, so that's where I watched it. And I like this film. I do think that it was much better made than what I personally got out of it in enjoyment. It was a very well made film, but overall, it just isn't like masterpiece level like a lot of people say it is. Like, it's just a dumb, fun family movie with some creative ideas and humor and an interesting story, but it's not like a revolutionary story that's going to like change the way films are made from now on. Like, this movie is going to get dated really quickly. Like, a lot of the humor is funny now, but down the road it's going to seem like old stuff. And yeah, it might go down as a classic, but it's definitely not going to go down as a masterpiece. In 10th place, rounding up our top 10, is Raya and the Last Dragon with a 79%. At first, when I watched this, I gave it a much better score. But then I looked at, like, the movie itself a little deeper, and there was so much that just disappointed me and let me down. This was not as cinematic as I wanted it to be. The action was great. The cinematography, animation, it's not really cinematography, but the animation was well done. Well done. Gorgeous. Very, very visually entertaining. The characters were good enough. Some of the humor, once again, I think is going to get dated really quick. It's like taking modern teenage quirkiness and like dragon nerds, wow, and then putting it into like this ancient time period. It just didn't mesh well. And just some of the other things just not necessarily were bad, but just like dragged the film down from being great. And the finale was kind of underwhelming, to be honest. I wanted a little bit more tension and dynamic between our heroes and villains, and then it's just this cloud mist entity thing that's turning people to stone. And it had an interesting conclusion to that, I guess, but it wasn't nearly as emotional as I wanted it to be, such as films like Moana and Frozen and Tangled. I wanted this film to be on those levels, but it wasn't. But it was still a good, solid film from Disney. In 9th place is Cruella, which was a very pleasant surprise for me. I gave this film an 80% overall. It's not an amazing film, but it is very good. Like, surprisingly, they took the character of Cruella de Vil and made an origin story for her and made me care about this character. And kind of what I like about this film is that some people try to like say this film is glorifying the devil and evil when in reality it's not. Yes, some of the moral judgment of the Cruella character are a little bit shaky, but that's Cruella's character. What I liked about this film is that she's just a fashion designer. She's not really evil. She doesn't even really do anything illegal technically in the overall term of the word. She just kind of is like a little bit sneaky and tricky, but I don't recall there ever being a moment in this film where she did something evil. She doesn't kill anybody. She, as far as I can remember, doesn't steal stuff. And she actually doesn't kill dogs, which was like the only actual evil thing she did in the cartoon. This movie is just really good. It's like a battle of wits between these two fashion designers, one already reaching the top, one being an actual evil person who killed Cruella's mom, and then you have Cruella, who is just like down, like she is building her way to the top, and so she has to be a little bit sneaky to get there. And it was entertaining. In eighth place is Free Guy with an 81%. Just a very clever, original movie that isn't very original, but it is original because it's based off of like Grand Theft Auto, and then it's like incorporating all these pop culture like references and everything in there. But the overall story was basic but interesting, and it's just a lot of fun. This movie is kind of hilarious. Ryan Reynolds did a great job. It was a lot more emotional than I thought it would be. In the end, it wasn't anything super deep, but it was a good time, and it had the good overall themes there. In seventh place with an 84% is Vevo, which was another Sony animated film that went to Netflix. It stars music and the voice acting talent of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I always get that name wrong, but it was a good movie. I was very surprised. I was expecting it to be kind of boring and dull, but I started watching this film and I'm like, this is catchy, because like the trailers just looked like the basic Lin-Manuel Miranda movie. The songs kind of seemed basic and repetitive of some of his other work. Like he has a very distinct like sound to his music. But overall, I thought in the end it was actually some creative, very soothing sounds. Like it was catchy stuff, and the story was much more emotional than I thought it would be. I actually cared about this little monkey and this little girl and their quest to go on this adventure to get this song to the old man's lady that he loved. Like, it's a straightforward story, and then they do so much fun stuff with it, like the whole nature girl environmentalist thing was hilarious. So much charm in this movie. That is how I would describe this, as one of those fun, charming movies. It's nothing amazing, nothing super deep, but it's a very fun, well-made, entertaining time with some catchy music. So I would recommend this film to anybody. Go ahead and watch this film, because it's a blast, to be honest. In sixth place is ShangChi with an overall score of 87%. A very solid addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not quite one of their greatest films, and it's definitely not one of my favorites, although it is definitely on the higher end of the Marvel spectrum. While it's not top tier, it is definitely on their better level. It's not generic. It has some really, really well done visuals and well done action sequences. And the villain is actually pretty good, as well as some of the story and emotional beats. It was just a very well crafted film, which I was very happy about because Marvel, I think, has been getting really lazy as of late. After Avengers Endgame, most of their content has not been very good, to be honest. But this film was really good, and I'm looking forward to some of the future Marvel projects, although some of them aren't looking that interesting. But this film gave me some hope for the future. In fifth place is Pixar's Luca, which was a straight to Disney Plus release. This film is really good. It's not one of Pixar's best. It's kind of simple, but it is such a rewatchable, fun movie. It's hilarious. It's heartwarming. It's beautifully animated. It has some interesting cultural significance. I just don't know what else to say about this film. It's really fun. The characters are so likable. Even the villain, he's like just this bully, but he's like such an interesting bully. And then you have the like the fish monster element to it, which makes it a little bit more intense and interesting. This was just a very well made movie. I give it an 88%. Go ahead, watch this one as well. I don't think you'll be disappointed, although I heard that some people were disappointed with it, but I don't know where they're coming from. I love this movie. In fourth place with an 88% as well is Dune, which is a remake of an older movie, which was an adaptation from a book series, which I just found out about. I didn't even realize this was a book series until just a couple weeks ago. And this film is great, almost. I'd say the filmmaking behind it is masterclass, very well directed. The cinematography, all the visuals, the story, the plot, the characters, very well done. I think that the third act lacks a little bit. They could have done a lot more with that third act, or at least built up to it better. But I was still interested and engaged throughout. Definitely did not enjoy this movie as much as I would have liked to. It just didn't have that much connection and resonance with me, but it was still really good. Quality wise, it's almost on, not quite that level, but almost like a Lord of the Rings style film. But in terms of the characters, the themes, wasn't quite deep enough to really get that lasting impact that it's going to need. But I hope that this sequel can live up to that, and that this ends, like this series ends as like a Lord of the Rings level film series, because it definitely has the potential to. In third place with an 89% is The Suicide Squad, a very well made film from director James Gunn, and I liked it quite a bit. I think I've slowly, gradually liked it more than from the first time I watched it. I think my original score would have been an 86, but now it's at an 89. There still are some things that really just like let me down and disappointed me. The portrayal of Harley Quinn, while I still really enjoyed it, I didn't love it, which is disappointing for me because Harley Quinn is one of my favorite like characters in any kind of TV show or movie, especially in this DCEU. Her character in Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad, I really loved. I've loved what they've done with her so far. And in this film, they just didn't advance her story in the way that I think would have made it really great. I think that they kind of were like dwelling way too much on where she was, with her being boy crazy. I don't know why she fell for this guy in this movie so quickly, but I'm glad that she was looking for red flags and took them out really quickly. But she just seems a little bit too naive in this film, and that was disappointing. I think that Polka Dot Man's death, spoilers, was way too rushed and didn't have as much impact as it should have, because I really cared about that character, and it was just so sudden, and he's gone, and they have like a little bit of a moment for him, but not much. Overall, I really liked a lot of the characters. The ending, the finale was really great. Ratcatcher is by far my favorite character in the movie, and that moment in the third act was so powerful. I loved it. Movie has a lot to offer, lots of great character dynamics. Not everything was great about this movie. Some of it had just like felt a little bit off, but most of it was really great, which is something I tend to find in these DC movies. I just think they're really good. And Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, is no exception. It's really good and gets better as I watch it. In second place with a 91% is In the Heights, another Lin-Manuel Miranda film that is top class. Now, yes, this film definitely benefits from there already being a successful Broadway musical source material, but it also takes those songs from the musical and the story and incorporates it so well into the film with the voice talent that they have and the choreography just make each song such a delight and so full of energy. It's just really entertaining. And then the dialogue, which I assume is also mostly based off of the Broadway musical source material, was very well written. Even when the characters aren't expressing their feelings in song, you are still interested and engaged in their problems and their struggles and their conflicts, that each character is interesting. And then when they are expressing it in songs, you really you feel it, and it's such a powerful, fun movie, and it's really deep. I just love the themes, and the main overall arching message that this film has is that, yes, sometimes we are called to do something really big with our life, to go to college and make a impact in our culture, our city, community, or even the world. But it's also about maybe our dreams, like going to live on an island where every day's a vacation. Maybe we can find that where we are in that small town. That life isn't about just doing something big and something that we would see in our mind as great, but sometimes doing something great is just in the little things, like finding love and raising a family, and that we can find fulfillment and satisfaction in those small moments. And in first place with a whopping 96.5% is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This movie is really great, but the fact that this movie even exists is incredible and like an achievement in itself, because rarely do we ever see a director's cut like this, especially after what we got in 2017. Like, I loved Man of Steel, I loved Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition, although I did enjoy the theatrical version. But know what film I didn't really like? Was 2017's Justice League. That movie was really bad. But Zack Snyder's Justice League is incredible. Like, the emotion, the action, the visuals. The visuals in this movie, like, every frame is a painting. Like, it's really top-notch, like, cinema. Like, this is cinematic, like, Lord of the Rings level. It's that good. The characters are all very well developed, and there's such great emotional just character moments and action moments and just satisfactory moments in the third act that we didn't even get a glimpse of in the 2017 version. This is the true version of Justice League that we should have gotten, and it delivers on like every level. The villain is actually like a well made character, not only physically and with the CGI done really well, but he's actually a pretty interesting character, as well as all of our heroes. And we get such good themes and just emotional conclusion and storytelling and messages. Like Cyborg's line, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone." Oh, that hit me so hard in the heart. That scene where Flash is running, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but Anybody who has seen it knows what I'm talking about. Such a powerful moment, and just so well done that I could continue just pouring out praise upon praise for this movie. It is a real landmark filmmaking achievement and deserves any bit of praise or acclaim or just anything good you can say. Yes, there's like two scenes that I'd say could have been cut out, but I also look at this as a director's cut. Like, I rated this film just based on how good it was as a filmmaking and storytelling achievement. Could some of it have been cut? Yeah. But Zack Snyder wanted to give us everything. Like, he wanted us to see what he filmed, even if not all of it would have made into the cut had it been released in theaters. But that's why it's being released as like a 4-hour film on a streaming service, because you can pause it if it's too long, or you can skip. So if you want to watch what you like, go to the parts you like. It's really so good, and it just makes me think of like how landmarkish of a moment this is in terms of the history of cinema, and just how good of a movie this would have been had it been trimmed down a little bit to help the flow, and had it been released in theaters back in 2017. How huge of a franchise the DCEU could have been by now, with Justice League Part 2 and the Batman and all of these other films that would have been connected. I like the way DC films are going right now, but it would have been so special had this film been this good in 2017. But it is great to have it now. Thank you, Zack Snyder, for giving us this wonderful film. Go watch my review, because I do have a movie review on my channel about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I discuss it in depth in that video. So go check it out. And that is the final film, the number one film of 2021, according to me, so far. Maybe Spider-Man No Way Home will top Zack Snyder's Justice League. Maybe it's going to be Encanto. Maybe it's going to be The Matrix 4. Who knows? There's still some movies ahead, but this list gives you an idea of where I would rank each of the movies I've seen so far, because I've kind of been slacking on my movie reviews. But this video's here. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help you be on the lookout for more videos from Luke Film Boss. I'll see y'all on the next one.